Good evening. Let me start off by introducing myself. My name is Jeremy Kitchen, and I'm currently a junior political science major. I'm a military veteran. I'm also the chairman of the Young Conservatives of Texas here at Texas Tech, but most importantly, I'm a concerned student. As a concerned student, I must first commend this representative body for finally putting into place multiple institutions to not only increase transparency, but also allow for student participation, such as this, the open forum. It excites me that I can be one of the first to participate in this, and I hope that many other Texas Tech students are encouraged to do so in the future. That being said, I'm afraid my individual praise comes to an end. I am concerned that this representative body, much like many others around other public schools in the state of Texas, forgets who they represent. I unfortunately see myself in a minority of students who seem to care about the ongoing of our student government with regard to the overall student population. This is not to say that it can't be resolved, however, and I hope that my presence and discussion with you tonight gets the ball rolling in that direction. I did not begin to really pay attention to the student government, more specifically the student senate, until the fall semester of 2010. This was not necessarily because I did not care, but mainly because I felt that myself, like many other students, are treated like outsiders instead of your constituents. As the year went on, I got to witness kind of the lack of student participation, especially in the student government elections. I'm sure I do not have to tell you how low the percentage of students there is that actually vote in the elections, let alone how many of those students are not involved in the Greek community. This is not to say I'm against what the Greek community participates in. I very much appreciate their participation within the school, local outreach, what have you. And though it's great, according to the Texas Tech Center for Campus Life, students involved in the Greek community only make up 15% of the undergraduate student body. Surely I'm not the only one that sees the disconnect in the representation. Now, I'm not advocating something requiring student participation in government, but I find it interesting that, in my point of view, there's no real steps that are taken to advertise to students what avenues they have to approach their representative. An example, it took months to get the Student Government Association website up to date with regard to when a Senate meeting was for this legislative session. Solution, why not post the meeting dates in multiple places around the student union building and have individual senators send out the information to the colleges they represent? Is this not the purpose of some of the general standing committees, such as the Student Publications Committee or the Student Senate Public Relations Committee? I understand that Senate Bill 47.12 was enacted for this very reason regarding the maintenance of the SGA website with oversight by the Senate Journal Clerk. Though this is a step in the right direction, a mere website update is great, but not if it's not promoted effectively. Looking over the published Student Government Association office budget for fiscal year 2011, it mentions a few things that raise a few eyebrows. It mentions that there's a beginning balance of $5,000 that goes towards town hall meetings. I've been attending Texas Tech for the last 4 years, and I've never heard of a town hall sponsored by my representative. Now, I could very well be in a minority of students who have never heard or had this experience with a lack of knowledge of student government, but based on my general questioning of the people I interact with on a daily basis, it definitely seems like that is not the case. It's interesting when students ask me why I care about the student government, whether it be within the organization I represent or in classes based on my multiple letter to the editors in the Daily Torador. I always have one answer for them, and I think that it's the most important response I can give them. I always tell them your student money, whether it be based off your student service fee, which raised for the first time in 4 years this year, that you pay every semester, or from anything else that contributes in many ways to how the student government functions, and ultimately it functions. And this ultimately, it just concerns me that based on this fact, there's little transparency as to how the money is allocated. A great example of this is how student organizations are funded through the Senate Budget and Finance Committee. My organization strictly survives on individual donations and dues, though we do receive funding from the Finance Committee every year. This process has, in my opinion, shown to be extremely subjective, with no clear formula to how the funds are allocated. In the past, certain discrepancies, such as keeping track of what organizations have missed mandatory source meetings, were ill-kept and thus allowed for other organizations to abuse the system. Surely we can do better at the oversight of student money, and I'll emphasize that again, student money. Perhaps one of the most embarrassing things for me watching a representative body such as this was when legislation entitled Senate Resolution 47.05, which was a resolution authored by former student Senator Williams, attempting to congratulate the one regent, John Steinmetz, who voted against increasing tuition for this school year. It was downright appalling for me to witness a good 85% of the senators in this room vote down a resolution that would have done nothing more than congratulate one region for siding with the voice of most of the student population here at Texas Tech. I challenge you to find me more students who support raising tuition at a time when the local and state economies are in desperate need of support. Instead, the majority of senators in here decided to support regents who sit on a board and, mind you, are unelected, but instead appointed by the Department of Education, instead of the students or constituents they represent. What a shame that the legislation regarding the recording of votes by each individual senator was not enacted at that time, so students could truly see if their senator has their concerns close to heart. I shall read to you one of your own articles in the Student Government Constitution, Article 2, Section 1. All legislative powers shall be vested in the student senate to promote, regulate, and coordinate student activities and to provide for the student welfare. It may take such rules and regulations as may seem necessary for the accomplishment of these purposes. It seems to me that student welfare in this case was not at the forefront of thinking. I digress, however. I thank each and every one of you for giving me this opportunity to speak to you tonight, especially through these new-founded institutions of this body. As a concerned Red Raider, I challenge you, each and every one of you, to really evaluate whether historically and in the future you plan on serving the ones that should matter most, your constituents. Thank you for your time.